All right, welcome again to Civic Engagement with Raymond Tyler. And as you know, we are less than 80 days away from the presidential election for 2024. Now, here at Atlantic City Focus and Civic Engagement, we are engaging people with opinions, and we'll tell you their opinions. We're engaging people with facts, and then we'll back up the facts. We're engaging candidates and voters and also other journalists as well. At any rate, this is part of our five questions series where we're asking people basically five questions in regards to the upcoming 2024 presidential race. And my guest today is somebody who I've known for a few years now. She is the former uh, program director for Philly Cam Radio, and she is an activist slash journalist. Please help me welcome Vanessa Marie, and would you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Hey Raymond, thanks for having me on the show. My name's Vanessa Maria Graber, and that's right. I'm a journalist and advocate and community organizer based out of Philadelphia and South Jersey. And I still produce a number of shows here locally. And I talk a lot about politics, elections, voting, and civic engagement and also do a lot of activism around access to media and representation. So happy to be here on the show with you. And hopefully we can dive into all these interesting questions.
Great, great, great. Okay, so let's go ahead and get it started. Question number one. Is it sexist to say that this particular presidential election between Vice President Harris and former President Donald Trump may be more important to women? And I'm not saying that because of Kamala Harris, but because of the abortion issue and how that relates to healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is important to women, more important than maybe other elections. And I don't think it's sexist to say so. I only think it's sexist when we hold candidates who are women, like Kamala Harris, to unfair standards that we wouldn't hold men to, or ask questions, or criticize her in ways that we wouldn't do so with male candidates. So I think that sexism is real, but when we talk about this election being important to women because of the issues that are very prominent, I think it's accurate to say that. I mean, uh, reproductive rights and access to healthcare for women is one of the leading issues that is being discussed in this election, because we've had the reversal of Roe versus Wade, and we've had over a dozen states across the country effectively take away abortion rights or severely restrict them. And that has really negatively impacted women's access to care when it comes to having safe pregnancies and having safe access to abortion. Um, I think furthermore, when we look at proposals like Project 2025 and we look at how they're talking about contraception or even using in vitro fertilization, also known as IVF, and trying to limit that, that makes me very, very concerned, right? In an election years where that hasn't gone that far. And so I think, especially in having talked to a lot of young women, because I went to several of the college campuses where they had protest encampments. And yes, most of the people there were protesting for Gaza and in solidarity with the Palestinian people. But these students care about a lot of other issues, including the climate crisis. But for a lot of the young women there, they're also deeply concerned about losing access to their reproductive rights.
Thank you. Okay. Question number two. Um, what do you believe the impact is of Joe Biden dropping out of the race and now the race being taken over by Vice President Kamala Harris?
Well, there's a lot of layers to this. On the one hand, we have seen the uncommitted movement across the US, really starting in states like Michigan, where hundreds of thousands of mostly Muslim and Arab Americans vote uncommitted to demonstrate to the Democratic Party that they weren't supporting a candidate like Joe Biden. It was unacceptable, his policy towards Israel and Gaza. And I do think that all of the student protests and mass mobilizations we've seen across the country and continuing this week at the DNC in Chicago, hundreds of thousands of people have descended in Chicago to protest the DNC and Biden's current policies. So I think those things had a really big impact in um, basically ousting Joe Biden, right? He didn't go willingly. I think that there was an enormous pressure from the public, but also from Democratic donors and insiders within the party to get him to step aside. I think that a lot of, the rhetoric that was used in public relations, just to explain why he left, included passing the torch to younger people. But I think that, if you look deeper and you look at the impact of these protests and people who said that they were not going to vote for Joe Biden, making it that much harder for him to win against Trump in November, that ultimately that had a really big impact on him leaving the race. I personally think it would have been nearly impossible or very, very difficult for Joe Biden to be able to get those votes, considering everything that's still happening today. On the other hand, one of the criticisms has been from a lot of people, and especially in people in states like New Jersey, right? Like, we're used to having primaries at the end of the primary season where it doesn't feel like we get to vote, right? Because sometimes a lot of the presidential candidates, they've already gained so much traction by the time they have primaries in New Jersey, it feels like the election has already been decided for us. So this is a familiar feeling, right? Where, um, you know, there was a quote unquote primary where Biden mostly ran opposed. Marianne Williamson was in there. There was a few other random candidates in there, but other than the uncommitted movement, he largely ran unopposed. And then at the last minute, bowing out and having Kamala Harris step in as the vice president, but she was not primaried. And had she been primaried, it's unclear if she would have emerged as the leading candidate. So that feels a bit undemocratic, even though the delegates have, overwhelmingly pledged to support Kamala Harris. She will officially accept the nomination at the end of the DNC convention this week. So, we'll see that and that will be historic. But I think that, at the same time, even though, like I said, there was a lot of people unhappy with Biden and people that feel that him stepping down so Kamala Harris could be the nominee feels undemocratic, you can't ignore the large amount of energy and momentum that the Harris campaign has gained in such a short amount of time. And despite what Trump says about the size of those crowds, those are really large crowds, right? That's a fact. And you're seeing historic fundraising happening online with groups of Black women, with Latinas, with men. And we haven't really seen that type of enthusiasm with Joe Biden. So hopefully it turns out good for the Democrats in the end, for switching candidates, or it can cost them. We'll have to see how Harris performs at this upcoming debate, which will take place in Philadelphia.
Okay, so this isn't part of the five questions, But I have to ask you, so you have confidence that the debate will actually take place?
I think it will. I think, Trump loves being on television, loves any type of media attention. I think he is often delusional in thinking that he is much better performing than he is. So I do think that he will take this opportunity to be on TV face to face with Kamala Harris. He has participated in other debates and he even showed up to the NABJ convention, which was surprising. So I do think that he will show up, and how he will perform against Miss Harris, well, we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, again, this isn't part of the five questions, but since you brought up the NJ, I mean the Black Journalist Convention, I've heard a lot of talk, and I have my own feelings about whether they should have interviewed him or not. Do you feel that the help me out, the National
Association of Black
Association,
Journalists.
yeah, should have invited him to interview?
Well, I was president of my NAHJ chapter. And I feel that if I were going to make a decision like that, I would want to engage my membership to get a temperature check and see if that's something that they wanted. As soon as that news dropped, from the leadership at NABJ, there was an instant backlash from NABJ members and other Black journalists who were going to be attending the conference. And so that just showed me that there was no engagement. There was no checking in to see if that's something that the membership wanted. If they did, then, I feel the leadership could have been a lot more confident and say, we talked to people and they wanted the opportunity to interview the president. That's not what happened. Allegedly, other members of the board said that they were not informed about the decision. So it seems like it was made unilaterally. And I think anytime that you do that, that's going to be, ruffling some feathers. So I think that that is where they went wrong. For your listeners and viewers who might not know, NABJ back in 2018 published an article chastising President Trump for his racist treatment of Black women journalists. And it was an article that laid out very extensively all of the actions and things that he had done to discriminate against Black women journalists and engage in racist, practices. And so I'm not sure why they thought the outcome would be different when they brought him in front of a group of Black women journalists, even if one of them was from Fox News. So I think that, again, if you're going to call out President Trump on that issue, you're going to have some explaining to do, because I think for a lot of people, Trump has gotten worse since 2018 and not better. And so it seems counterproductive to put out a statement like that, advocating for Black women, and then inviting him to your platform for him to do the same exact thing that he was accused of doing in front of your entire membership. Traditionally, uh, in the past, NAHJ and NABJ have they have done joint conventions called the Unity Conference, where they've brought the presidential candidates there. That's been very popular, especially for people who don't have access to, presidential candidates to speak to issues about people of color. But we're sort of dealing with an entirely different situation when we're talking about a known racist, misogynist, rapist, convicted felon like former President Trump.
Okay. So just one follow up on this. So even though they did extend the invitation to Vice President Harris, and I don't know what other, as you said earlier, there are other people besides those two running for president. I'm sure if they invited Cornel West, he probably would have attended. But I guess my point is, um, you don't see the need to, if you're going to invite the Democratic nominee, to also extend the invitation to the Republican nominee because it's Donald Trump, or I'm just trying to follow.
Well, yeah, this isn't somebody who's going to play by the rules, right? He continued to make racist statements. He
Right,
continued to disrespect the women. He was completely rude and, misbehaving on the stage. He had no respect for the organizers. He didn't answer any of the questions. He continued to use that platform to spread disinformation and lies. Like, I'm having trouble seeing what benefits they thought would be beneficial to the membership by bringing him there to do that. It created an unsafe space for the Black members that were there, and it really horrified and offended lots of people. So I think this was a huge misstep by the organization, and I don't think he should ever be invited back to speak on any issue. And Kamala Harris, she was at the funeral of, I believe, Sheila Lee Jackson and was not able
right,
to attend. It all sounds like it was not planned and was very last minute. So, again, there's just a whole swath of issues there in terms of poor planning and poor communication with the membership.
right,
I think, again, if your membership wants Trump to be there, then you have good reason to invite them. But clearly, the membership did not want him to be at their conference.
right. I I'm tempted to make this a debate about that one particular issue. Um, I will say for our people who are watching and listening, to give some context, unfortunately, uh, uh, Ms. Jackson Brown Lee um, passed almost right after Kamala was you know put up to be the nominee. So it was like a perfect storm of not being able to get there. So so you have that. Um so moving on, and I guess you've already answered this question, but what are your thoughts on the Trump Vance ticket? Oh, this is no question number three.
Um, yeah, I mean, I personally feel that the Supreme Court should not allow him to run, because of his role in the January 6th insurrection and riots. Um, Again, he's a convicted felon. He has several other cases pending. So I really am disappointed that this is the best that the Republican Party can come up with again. And also, to that end, we have somebody who was a never Trumper, JD Vance, ultimately have to change his position because of the support and grip that Trump has over the Republican Party. Um, it's unclear if he genuinely had a change of heart, or if he's just shifting his politics in order to be able to be, given the opportunity that he was given. It sounds like he'll say whatever needs to be said in order to get to where he's going. He gives a lot of creepy vibes, just from the statements that he's made, his the way that he talks about his wife, who is an Indian woman of color, and in the same breath demonizing immigrants. So in a lot of ways, I think they're two peas in a pod, and they both share an affinity for vanity and mistruths. It's disappointing though, right? Like, it's disappointing that this is where we're at, that somebody who has ultimately been shown to be responsible for an insurrection at our Capitol, who has repeatedly said that he will not accept the results of the election, who is priming the American electorate for not accepting the results and having a contested election, and continues every day to spread disinformation and lies on his platform that this is the leading candidate. This is who won the primaries for Republicans across the country. It's a sad state of affairs. I wish we weren't here. I wish Trump would have gone away after he lost to President Biden. But here we are once again dealing with another potentially contentious election with former President Trump and his new pal, JD Vance.
With the election less than 80 days away, what issue or issues concern you as you're, about to make your way to the ballot box or vote by mail or however you decide to vote this year?
Um, there's so many issues. I think, recently I've been working on the topic of environmental journalism and, covering the climate crisis. And it really accounts for less than 1% of all news coverage. And I held an event in New Jersey with policymakers and journalists to talk about the real threats that we have in the state of New Jersey, but also in the United States more broadly when it comes to all of these storms and wildfires and tornadoes and increased heat and flooding. And we've certainly seen a lot of that this summer. And so for me, that feels like a more immediate threat. And my family lives in Puerto Rico. They're still without power, they're still without water. A lot of the communications infrastructure is also still down. And so, the climate crisis continues to be this ongoing existential threat. And I don't believe it's getting the coverage and the discussion that it needs to in these elections. Um, Secondly, I'm just like every other American where the cost of living has really impacted me, and the sky high prices of food and gasoline and rent, and people my age not having the ability to have home ownership. It's a growing problem. Things are just costing too much, and there doesn't seem to be any solutions in sight. And when we find out that the reason why prices are so high is due to corporate greed and not supply chain issues or not due to scarcity, it makes me even more mad, right? Like, why are these corporations not being penalized for doing that? So, we're all wondering, no matter what candidate wins, how are we going to be able to continue to afford our lifestyles? It has been increasingly more difficult. Many people like myself have two jobs, right? We're doing side hustles. You see more and more people doing Uber and Lyft and DoorDash on the side. And so those are other, ways you can tell that more people are struggling and your dollar doesn't go as far. So for me, that's a really big issue. Um, and thirdly, our foreign policy, I think, makes us really unsafe in the United States. Our ongoing funding of arms to Israel and, our meddling throughout the world. And this has also like led to several resignations within Biden's State Department, where staff are saying just this, that our foreign policy is making us less safe, right? Is making security risks for us. We've seen global protests against the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. We've seen these student encampments. I suspect students will come back in a few weeks to campus and start protesting again. And we're using our tax money and really our political capital to support what's happening there. Just the other day, another $20 billion arms sale was approved, along with another $3.5 billion. And again, when people are having trouble accessing public resources, we see our infrastructure crumbling, and people not being able to get financial support. I think we get really frustrated when we see our tax dollars being used in that way. The Biden administration largely has not changed their policy on Gaza and Israel. And so I think that that is going to impact Kamala Harris' ability to win in this upcoming election. And even if she does, when someone's got to win, somebody's, I don't think people are going to stop protesting and raising this issue until the violence stops. So for me, those are my top three issues.
Okay. Well, I think you just answered question number five, which was no matter who wins, what would you like to see change? But do you want to add to that, or do you want to answer that question as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think another issue that I would like to see, and we've seen the impacts of like Citizens United and like unlimited, super PAC and dark money spending on elections, is we still really need campaign finance reform. The reasons why a lot of politicians are not doing what their constituents want or not keeping their campaign promises is because of the influence of corporations and lobbies and special interests. And if we don't cut off that money to their campaigns and funding oppositions to remove people like we saw with Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, then we're really not going to be able to hold politicians accountable for the promises they make or the policies that they are implementing. And I think there is, a really big problem with dark money funding a lot of these elections and races at all levels. Billions and billions of dollars are being spent to oust people from office. So I think it's a really big problem. I would love to see that change. I would love to see the Supreme Court be expanded and stacked so that we don't have this activist court continue to make decisions, as unelected people that negatively impact Americans. And I would like to see more people hold their elected officials accountable, right? Like it's our responsibility to be a thorn in their side after they get elected. So much of civic engagement is talked about voting, but we only vote one or two times a year. We have to continue to be active and organize and educate ourselves beyond elections. And so, for example, if somebody like President Trump wins and starts enacting executive orders that are harmful to our communities, what are we going to do to defend ourselves and to resist against those harmful policies? I think we need to start thinking about that now. We also need to start thinking as communicators and journalists, what our role looks like in a contested election scenario. So those are some of the things that I'm thinking about.
Very good. I actually have a couple of other follow-up questions, but I'm going to table them because hopefully we'll be able to bring you back to answer questions like should there be term limits on the Supreme Court and what to do if Donald Trump is indeed successful, and also people who are dissenting with Harris, are they just haters, or are there people out there with legitimate questions and concerns? But we don't have the time to get into all of that right now. I will say this: I thank you for your time. And before I do let you go, is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have asked you, or that you'd like to uh, give us your opinion on before we let you go?
Yeah, I just want to make one comment about a lot of the trolling and division that's happening on social media. And, I think there's a lot of disinformation aimed at Black and Latinx communities. There's a lot of trolls and bots out there. And I just really want to encourage people to not pay attention to a lot of that stuff and to have real conversations like we're having, Ray, where we can disagree and we can still talk to one another and understand each other better. Um, I'm a fan of radio and especially community radio when we can have this type of dialogue and, respectfully debate and try to understand where the other person is coming from. People need to get offline. They need to get into their communities. They need to do more in-person organizing and political education and stop spending so much time online fighting with trolls and creating more division within our communities. No matter what political perspective you have, I think we're going to really be needing each other in the next couple of months.
She is Vanessa Maria Graber. Did I say that right?
That's correct.
And she is a journalist and an activist. If somebody wants to get in contact with you with a story idea, or maybe they want to engage in some other matter or see some of your other work, how can they get in contact with you, or how can they see some of your work,
Yeah,
hear
you
some of
can
your work?
see a lot of my work on Twitter at News John. I post from my various programs and shows that I work on. So that's News, News, John, Jawn. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Vanessa Maria Graber.
All right. Well, as I said before, I'll say it again. Thank you so much for sitting down for 5 questions. Listen, if you would like to be a guest and answer 5 questions, if there is something that is on your mind with regards to the upcoming campaign, if there's a candidate or a topic that you want us to get a hold of or to explore or to uh, question, you can always get us at www.atlanticcityfocus.com. This has been Civic Engagement with Raymond Tyler, and we will be back often between now and Election Day. If you're not registered to vote, you still have time to register to vote. And guess what? If you're in New Jersey, you can actually register online. You can go to www.njgov.com to get more information on how you can register to vote online and also in person. And they have information on early voting and voting by mail as well. Thank you.